Welcome to the Explainer. So, today we're going to talk about something that trips up some of the smartest, most capable people out there, why your own intelligence might be the very thing that's holding you back. We're going to break down why high achievers get so stuck in these cycles of overthinking, and I'll give you a really practical toolkit to finally break free. Let's just jump right into it with this question. For so many intelligent, ambitious people, the very mind that fuels all your success can also become your own worst enemy. That incredible analytical ability is your superpower, right? But what happens when you just can't find the off switch? And look, let's be really clear about something. You don't overthink because you're weak or flawed. Not at all. You overthink because you care deeply about the outcome. It's not a character flaw. It's really just the shadow side of your drive to win, to get better, and to avoid mistakes at all costs. So this brings us to what we can call the high achiever paradox. For people who perform at a high level, thinking isn't just a simple straight line. It's this deep, multi-layered analysis that we're going to call overprocessing. So does any of this sound familiar? You analyze every single angle of a decision, you replay conversations in your head to find spots where you could have been better, and your mind is just constantly jumping ahead, asking, what's next? Your brain has literally been trained for this kind of deep, critical analysis to get you where you are. But now, it just doesn't know when to stop. But why? Why does this happen? Well, it turns out there's some really interesting neuroscience behind this tendency. Your brain is quite literally wired for overdrive. Let's take a look at the biology. There's some research that suggests people with high IQs might have what's called a hyperbrain, which then leads to a hyperbody. Basically, it just means your central nervous system is extra reactive. So even a minor little trigger, like an annoying sound in the background, can kick off a low-level but chronic stress response. And then you've got this other thing going on. It's called the default mode network, or DMN. You can just think of it as your brain's official overthinking network. When your mind isn't focused on a task, when it's just wandering, the DMN lights up. It's where you get lost reflecting on yourself, replaying the past, and gaming out every possible future. For overthinkers, this thing is constantly running in the background, just burning up your mental energy. And at first, right, all this deep thinking feels incredibly productive. You feel like you're preparing, analyzing, strategizing. But over time, that constant, relentless search for 100% certainty starts to come with some pretty serious hidden costs. The impact on your actual performance is huge. Your decision-making slows right down to a crawl. Your creativity gets stifled because you're way more focused on risk than on possibility. And your execution? It gets delayed again and again. This constant hunt for perfect information becomes the ultimate performance bottleneck. Okay, so let's make a really important distinction here. Strategic thinking, that's your superpower. Overthinking, that's its evil twin. Strategic thinking is focused, it has a clear endpoint, and it's driven by taking action. Overthinking, on the other hand, is scattered, it feels endless, and it's driven by fear. One moves you forward, the other just keeps you stuck right where you are. And this is how you get trapped in that nasty overthinking cycle. It goes something like this. You set a big, exciting goal. Then you overanalyze every possible risk. That analysis paralysis leads you to delay taking action. The delay cranks up the pressure you feel, which, you guessed it, forces you right back into more thinking instead of doing. So what's the way out? Well, here's the most important thing to get. The solution is not to stop thinking. That's impossible, and frankly, you wouldn't want to. Your analytical mind is an asset. The goal is to structure your thinking so that it serves you instead of trapping you. This really gets to the heart of it. The problem isn't that you think too much. It's that your thinking system is kind of chaotic. It's unstructured. So let's give your brain a better operating system, one that's designed to channel all that amazing mental energy directly toward action. All right, so let's build you that new system. I'm going to give you two simple but seriously powerful frameworks you can start using today. Okay, so this is what the overthinking trap looks like for most of us. We spend a whopping 80% of our mental energy just thinking, analyzing, planning, worrying. That leaves almost no room for actually doing the thing. Now here's the fix. It's called the 3-level thinking framework. And the whole goal is to just flip that ratio completely. First, you cap your initial thinking at just 20%. Then you dedicate the vast majority of your time, a full 60%, to pure execution. Just go, take action, test your ideas. And finally, you use the last 20% to review what happened, learn from it, and then adjust your plan. All right, tool number 2. It all comes down to one simple number: 70%. It's such a simple but powerful figure for breaking that analysis paralysis and making faster, smarter decisions. See, waiting for perfect information for 100% certainty, that's not being diligent. It's just a fancy form of procrastination. The 70% rule says that once you have about 70% of the information you think you need, it's time to act. Why? Because it's action that creates clarity, not more thinking. So how do you actually use this? It's pretty simple. For the small, everyday decisions, just decide instantly. For medium ones, give yourself a hard time limit, maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And for the really big stuff, set a deadline, no more than a day or two. This forces you out of that endless, painful loop. Okay, so at the end of the day, mastering these tools isn't just about learning a new technique. It really requires a fundamental shift in how you view yourself and how you measure your own value. Your whole goal here is to shift your identity. You're not someone who thinks perfectly. You are someone who executes effectively. Your success is defined by what you do, not just by how well you think about doing it. So let's wrap this all up. Here's your solution, your new toolkit. First, the mindset. Always remember that action creates clarity. Thinking just creates more thinking. Second, the structure. Use that 20-60-20 framework to make execution your priority. And third, the trigger. Pull the trigger and make the decision using the 70% rule. It's all about progress, not perfection. So I'm going to leave you with a challenge. Think about that one thing you've been spinning your wheels on. What is one action, just one, you could take right now without any more information? Let that question be your starting line. Go from thinking to doing. Start today.